Dead Ops Arcade was the third on-disc experience in Black Ops 1. It could be accessed in the main menu by breaking out of the chair, walking over to the computer in the back of the room, and inputting a secret code. Now, while Dead Ops might be the third zombies experience in Black Ops 1, it's not really a zombies map. It's a top-down twin-stick shooter that, interestingly enough, was developed by one single man, David King, who would go on to make all of the Dead Ops and future Treyarch CODs all by himself, using nothing but pre-existing assets. So just keep in mind that when I critique Dead Ops Arcade and express my issues with it, I am aware that this is a passion project by one dev who put this together on his spare time, which is how the original Noct map was created as well. And I can appreciate the creativity of turning a first-person shooter into a top-down twin-stick shooter that is pretty impressive. However, the question, is Dead Ops Arcade worth playing today? It's been over 12 years since the original Dead Ops came out, and many players don't really talk about it all that much. And the reason for that is what I feel Dead Ops Arcade fails to do, and that is have replayability. The core concept of the original zombies was being replayable. That is why games like Vanguard Zombies didn't resonate with players, and why a lot of players don't like Outbreak in Cold War or the Tortured Path in World War II. Because they are game modes that force you into one particular playstyle and have little to no option to choose from. There is a level of randomness to Dead Ops, but the issue is that every round from 1 to 40 is the same every time you play. You reach the same special rounds, have the same layouts, fight the same bosses at the exact same time every match. Now, the power-ups and weapons you acquire are random, but the way you play is identical. As a fun little mini-game you pick up and play for 15 minutes, it's not too bad. But when the boss fight is on round 40, and when getting to that point becomes so tedious because every game plays out the exact same way, the whole experience just becomes so tiring and grating. There's only so much fun you can have when the default weapon becomes useless at a certain point. And the only way of upgrading it is with a temporary weapon or power-up that really doesn't last that long. Your only chance is to get lucky and get one of the 2 permanent weapon upgrades. Dead Ops is a very simple game mode with not a lot of depth to its gameplay. Now again, it's a mode developed by one man. I'm not expecting a masterpiece here, but when you put it in the menu alongside Kino and 5, I'm going to criticize it for what it is. It's a zombies experience that gets real old real fast. One of the major issues with Dead Ops is that the environments that you play in, while they can be creative at times, the visuals just become so muddled and difficult to see the zombies. Amongst the mass of undead corpses, the oddly textured floors, and just the amount of visual pollution going on the screen, because you're such a tiny ant-sized character running around with tons of zombies all over the screen, it can actually become quite difficult to keep track of yourself. Now, there might be a slight glow around the character, but when I'm looking at the screen and I lose myself in the crowd of zombies, or worse, when I don't see an enemy coming and I get blindsided and killed in one hit, because yes, you die in one hit in Dead Ops Arcade, and while the lives may be plentiful early on, when the special rounds come, they can really throw you off your groove. Some of the special enemies in this game are just ridiculous. The Nova Crawlers lunge at you, and for some reason, they're really finicky to hit with bullets. Only explosives seem to do any damage to them. Now, the power-up weapons help, but they can only go so far. Because about the early 30s, most of these weapons become absolutely useless. And there's no way to permanently upgrade, because there's no pack-a-punch, no perks, nothing. All the weapons are random, but not in the same way that the mystery box is. The biggest issue is getting to round 40 to fight the boss is just tedious. You're playing 35 of the exact same round, pretty much. Only rarely does the mode change up and throw in special enemies, but they can really ruin your game. The dogs are absolutely horrendous. They move so quickly and their models are so narrow, it's nearly impossible to hit them. I swear, the ray gun shots go right through them. So when you get to the dogs, it's essentially a giant drain on the lives you've been saving up to this point. Now, this would be made easier with more players, but God help you if your teammates go down and you're stuck with 4 players amount of zombies by yourself. At that point, you're just at the mercy of the game on if it'll give you power-up drops or not. Now, some of the power-ups can be useful, like the tank, the helicopter, or the ray gun, or the almighty chicken, which is a little companion AI that flies next to you and duplicates whatever weapon you're holding, essentially doubling your damage. The chickens are fantastic because they last the longest of all the power-ups, so if you see one, you better pick in that chicken. But the issue is that Dead Ops is a very simple game mode that doesn't have the depth to be engaging for long periods of time. By the 30s, I'm already bored out of my mind. I couldn't even get to the boss fight, entirely because the dogs were absolutely unfair. I don't see getting past them without getting lucky and getting a good power-up drop. Now, there's one way to get a single permanent upgrade, however, the problem there is it's given to you seemingly at random in the Room of Fate. Only 2 of the 4 options are the weapon upgrades. So essentially, you have a 50-50 chance of getting the weapon upgrades. One being the chicken, and the other being the death machine, which if you get that one, count yourself very lucky. But even then, it does little to mitigate the massive health increase in the early 30s, so you're still reliant on the other power-up drops. So back to the question, is Dead Ops Arcade worth playing? I would say it is, but not in solo and not for very long. It can be a fun experience with friends, but then again, most things are. In solo, it just doesn't have the depth to keep your attention. Once again, because all the rounds are identical apart from the random power-up drops. There's no reason to play this alone. And there's really no reason to replay it once you've beaten the boss, because the game just loops and it's the exact same every time. There's no reason to sink hours into playing Dead Ops Arcade because the gameplay wasn't really meant for that. It's a fun little distraction that you can pick up and play for like 15 minutes. The game doesn't have the depth or enjoyment to play any longer. Playing this for more than 14 rounds can get absolutely agonizingly boring. I'm not saying that Dead Ops Arcade is an absolutely miserable experience, but as an experience, it's much more fun to experience with friends in short bursts, and certainly not for a high-round solo attempt. What?! The round was over! Are you f***ing kidding me?! F*** this shit, man. Are you f***ing serious? God f***ing damn it! How did I get killed after the round was over? The f***ing door was done and the f***ing dog still killed me! F*** you.